Hello and good evening.
Hello.
I guess this is welcome to Hyvä Talks episode something. This has been a really long time. But long time waiting. We we want to have a look at Hyvä POS today and show what we've been cooking there. And just give a general run through of what the free and the paid version look like, and how licensing will work and configuration through Magento if you're using the pro version. So all of that, and we're currently in a stage where we're almost done testing internally, and we'll start the test pilot, for which we've had a sign-up form online for a couple of weeks now, and we're going to reach out to those people this week or early next week, and ask them for some more input, and then invite a select few to be the first to try out the POS in their store, so we can test with them and see how things go. And then if things go well, we can start rolling it out initially in the Netherlands and in the UK probably. And then the only thing that would stop us from rolling it out in other countries is VAT compliance or tax compliance in Germany and France and Italy and Austria, for which we are implementing a tax service that digitally signs all of your sales in your register, with kind of a blockchain kind of technique, where every sale that you do is signed by a third party. So we're working on that so we can also roll out in those countries as soon as possible. Without further delay, let me share my screen. And here we have an emulator running an iPad, where you can see the full app. It runs on any Mac device, so it runs natively on a Mac, an iMac, MacBook, iPads, even on an iPhone. The only thing it doesn't run on yet is the watch, which is going to be a bit more complicated. This is the view when you open the app the first time and you're using the free version. We're going to make the iOS app available on the App Store for free, and if you want to upgrade and use the Pro features, which we'll show during this presentation, then you can buy licenses through our website and upgrade and use the extra features. So first thing, when you open the app, there's a couple of quick actions that you can adjust on the settings. So you can change the order, and there's a couple more that you can add. But it's a first look at some things that you can do. We have a mechanism of custom products. If you have something in the store that's not linked to a product in Magento, you can put that on a generic SKU in Magento, so you can sell something off the shelf without having a counter product in Magento. So you can set a name and description. This is basically just a quick action to add a customer to your order. So this is fully linked to Magento. Maybe also good to mention, the entire app works through Magento API. The free version doesn't require any adjustments to the API. So you don't need to install any module. You just download it through the App Store. There's a demo version that you can try, which is now not available because I have a store configured already, but you can test the entire app and without connecting to Magento even. And then when you connect to Magento, it pulls in all the product data, all customer data, and you can start selling right away. So if I link this to my own account in Magento, there's a product in my cart where I can apply line discounts, fixed amounts, or a percentage. There's also a discounts section here where I can look up coupons that apply to the products in the cart. It fetches them from Magento, sees which ones apply. And then again, percentage or fixed amount discount on the entire cart, so that's not a line item. And then if someone comes in with a gift card that they bought in store, you can manually apply a discount amount here, which will be reduced from the sales price. Yeah, otherwise you can browse through the products, configurable products work, bundle products work, group products, and of course you can use barcode scanners. We've tested quite a few with QR barcode scanner or just regular. Maybe it's nice to have a physical setup here with the cash drawer and everything I can show by the end of the presentation. So the free version allows you to do all of this. You can hold an order if someone forgot their receipt in the car. You can add a note and park it to recall later. So you can help another customer while someone searches for the wallet or looks up the PIN code. So you can recall it and then continue. I cannot select cash right now because my register is closed. So at the beginning of the day, you open your register. Let's say you have 500 euros in your register. That's being tracked. So opening and closing of your register is, and all the amounts are being added and removed from your register. There's a Delta report and the end of day report where you can view everything that went in and out of the cash, so that works for your accounting and everything. I can take out some cash during the day if I feel we're a bit heavy on the amount of cash in the register. But now that I've opened it, I can also select cash payments and card payment. And then let's say someone has 100 euros in cash and they want to pay the rest by card, a split payment that works out of the box. We currently integrate with Molly terminals. I have one on desk right here. That works natively through the iPad, so it doesn't need Magento in between. It's just direct communication with Molly. Then when I place the order, it syncs to Magento directly. When I place the order, I can print the receipt or send the receipt by email to the customer, or I can show a QR code for the customer to scan, which is actually going to be a pro feature because that's going to show on the second display, the customer-facing display, which is part of the pro product. Then I start a new sale, my card is empty, and I can help my next customer. As I said, barcoding scanning adds product to the card directly. There's a concept of receipts on the iPad that's different from Magento orders. So that's like a carbon copy of anything that you sell in store. And that's super important for your accounting because that's what your customer walked out of the store with the receipt, with the amount of tax that they paid and everything. So this needs to persist always. What the app does then is sync this to Magento. So we have the counter orders on this tab where you can also see all of your online orders. So it pulls in the orders from Magento as well. That means you have a full buy online, pick up in store, or if someone comes in because they received a product that was dirty or damaged, you can give them a refund and give them a fixed amount back or take in the product entirely. And that's basically just a credit order as you're familiar with in Magento. There. I can reprint a receipt or send an email to the customer and add a comment to the order. So it's kind of management of your Magento orders. I can look up my customer information. Also comes directly out of Magento. Then there's stock management. I can turn on auto increase stock, and I can select, if you use MSI, multi-stock inventory from Magento, I can select which stock I am mutating. So imagine I'm in store, I have a big box of t-shirts that I need to add to the stock, and it's either going into the warehouse or I'm putting it into in the store. So I can select the stock in store, and then because I have an auto scan enabled, for every product that I scan the barcode of, it automatically increments by 1. And then if I made a mistake, so if I quickly just add one product, add quantity 1 here, and then save changes, I can see the recent changes. So it went from 78 to 88, and I can also roll back if I felt I made a mistake. There's also transfer, so if I'm taking stuff from the warehouse and I'm gonna put it in store and I wanna move it from the warehouse to in store, I can scan them one by one and it moves it from the one stock resource to the other. I can also just quickly look up products here, and then a few details. If I have a printer connected, I can print barcodes from here, which I can show on the other device later. My register status, so I can close by the end of the day, I get a sales report, and it also gives me an export. There's some reporting here, statistics, the stock mutations that I just showed, so you can see who changed what and when. Now on the free version you only have one user, but if you're on the pro version, it also shows, as you can see, these were placed under the pro account. You can see which employee changed the stock, so you can ask questions if something didn't pan out. And then if you were offline or there were sync errors, you can look them up here under the error reports. When you first set up the store, I can maybe show quickly, if I add a new store, it asks me whether I want to have a guided setup or manual configuration. The guided setup walks me through every step. I need to set up my store URL. I can authenticate through admin login, but preferably it's a much more stable, reliable, especially if you have multiple registers at once. You should use an integration token, or the safest way is OAuth, where you need 4 tokens, but you can also use integration token, for which you need to enable one security setting. Then you test the connection. If all the API, if all the resources are available for your API key, then it continues and you can continue setting up the rest of the store. So that was, well, okay, so you can add more than one store to your configuration, which is maybe nice to know. So if you're managing multiple stores, you can set up multiple Magento instances. One can use the pro version, the other one can use the free version. Yeah, as I said, also works on your iPhone. So if you're working on the market in the weekends, you can even attach your Modi terminal, the mobile one, so you have a fully functional cash register wherever you go. Yeah, I was going through the settings. So we're on the free version here. You can set up stuff like the store name, the icon that you see. Let's see why I'm not getting the category showed here yet. So I can either show all categories on the POS, or I can select a few, so I can leave some out. And there's only one store view, I think, so that's why it only doesn't allow me to switch store views here. But you want to reduce stock or not, and what the default location is where you're selling from. Different text settings, these match Magento, but you can set them up differently here. So if you're changing something in Magento, you need to make sure they match here. In the Pro version, this is automatically synced from Magento to the POS. The custom SKU that you can use to create products or sell products on the fly from your POS if you don't have the product in Magento. And then for product previews, you need to have the suffix set. On the payments, where you want to have the register enabled or not, if you want to auto-open the drawer when you're selling, what kind of bills and receipts you accept. And then you can attach your Molly account, and it fetches automatically the terminals that are available in your Molly account. Whether you want to have the manual discount enabled in the cart that I showed earlier, or whether you want to allow split payment or not. So it's all configurable. Barcode scanners, printers, receipts, and barcode printing. Then customer display that only works. It's visible here because you can use this app without using the Pro version to switch to display mode. So now it's looking for a POS that's running Pro mode to connect to display sales data and everything, which I'll show with the Pro version. You can lock the screen, set a lockout time, and set a passcode. In the Pro version, you can switch between users. And then how often it should check in with your Magento to see if there's updates in configuration and stuff like that. And another feature where it builds up a cache of your product SKUs to add things to the cart very quickly with the barcode scanner, and then it fetches the price and the stock from live data after it's added to the cart. So that makes adding to the cart instant without having the delay of looking up information through the API. I can tweak the way the app looks. So I can set the primary color so you can distinguish different stores maybe, or just have it match your brand color. There's a dark mode, different languages you can switch to. And then you can set the order in which the quick actions are shown here on your landing screen. So yeah, it even works with camera scanner. Of course, it doesn't work on this simulator, but you can use the barcode scanner, like the camera of the iPad, as a barcode scanner. So you don't even need a manual barcode scanner. And then it's global search and whole help section that explains what everything does. So all of this is in a free version, and you'll be able to download this from the App Store with all these features without needing to pay us a single dime. But the Pro version has a lot of cool stuff added to this. So let me first quickly change something here. Okay. Let me show you a local version of our live website where you'd be able to buy monthly or yearly. You can buy terminals. So a single terminal is going to cost €50 per month, which is highly competitive with other POS systems, especially when you hear all the features that I'm about to show. I can buy multiple terminals at once, but as soon as you bought your first terminal, you can add the rest from your account, which I'll show in a minute. Well, I can jump to that right now. So after I've bought my first POS license, you can see that the POS module available through packages can then be installed on your Magento instance, which is needed for all the Pro features. And then there's a new section, POS terminals, where you can see how many terminals you currently have in your account. So I have 3 paid terminals and 1 test developer, which will be reserved to our technical partners. They can use a free developer license, which they can't use in production, but they can use to give demos, etc. You get API keys in your account per store, which you can use to connect your store to our website to pull in this license information. payments will go through payment mandates. So if you have the first time you place your payment, we already do this currently, but we don't have this management page on the website at this time. But as long as you have a valid card or payment method in your account, we'll be able to monthly renew your license. And if I add a new terminal, it's prorated. So it calculates the amount of days. So right now it's exactly 30, but if it were just 20 days, it would only charge you for the remaining 20 days of this billing cycle. And then in the next billing cycle, all of your terminals are charged at the same time. And you can switch to yearly, in which you save some money, so we only charge you once a year. So from here, you take your API key and you go into your Magento store, and then under configuration, so after you've installed the POS module, you'll have this new menu section here. Then under configuration, you will see what version of the module you have installed. And then you can add your API keys and set some default settings, what the default status should be for order when it's placed, if it's required to log in by a user, if terminal registration is required. That means you need to be registered with a valid license, otherwise the terminal won't unlock. You need to activate the license anyway to use the Pro features, otherwise it will be running on the free version. But I'll show what it means. It just means that it enforces that your terminal is registered through your Magento stores, and that gives you the power to lock out a terminal when it gets stolen or something happens with an employee or whatever. I can disable the POS from Magento from distance. The health cards that I showed before, when you park a card to record later, you can share those between registers in the same location. So if someone comes back and they see that another register is available, they can walk up there and say, yeah, they just put my order on hold, can I complete it here? So it's shared between the different registers. And this allows you to force settings to all POSs. So I can determine from Magento what should be on the receipt, which payment methods they're allowed to use on a POS. So I can pre-configure everything through Magento, and a merchant or a cashier or manager in the store doesn't need to concern with setting all these things, because they're pushed from Magento to a location's registers. And then you can set API keys for your Molly account through Magento as well. You can select which payment method should be available for all your store's registers. I can set the content that should be on the receipt. Whether I want to gather diagnostic data, so you can use that to see which iPads are working well, which are running low on memory, to see if you need to upgrade to newer iPads, or you can even see which API requests are slow, so you can see if there's an issue with your server resources that are available. In a Pro version, you can connect with credit and reward points and gift cards and RMA. We've made this compatible with Adobe Commerce, and we have like a compatibility layer where you need to make your credit and RMA module compatible with our API bridge. And if you do that, you can fully integrate into our POS using your module. So we've already done some groundwork for Headworks and MST and Mirasfit to test if we could create compatibility modules for those as well, and it seems to work well. From here you can select which one it should use. So if you're already using a gift card module from a third-party vendor, if that vendor is compatible with our POS, you can continue to use your gift card codes and everything that you already have in Magento in store as well. So that's fully unified commerce or cross-channel sales. People can come up in the store and use their gift cards they bought online. And this is export data if you need digital signing for your tax reports, which we're still working on. So that's for France and Germany, Italy and Austria. So that's just the general configuration. When you set it up, so I've added my API keys here now, which I got from my Hyvä website. I entered the API key and I can now go to POS and then licenses, and I can fetch licenses from Hyvä. They're currently up to date, but it checks whether there's any that need to be added. This runs on a cron job, so it goes automatically every 6 hours, I think. But if you're in a hurry, you just bought a new license on a website, you can fetch the new one here, and then under terminals you can add a new terminal or copy an existing one and duplicate the settings of one. So if you have one terminal set up for a location, you can duplicate all the settings and just directly activate the terminal using the same configuration. So if I look here, I can give the terminal a name, I can set which location it belongs to, whether it's active or not, and this is the activation code that you need to activate the POS. So I can jump back to the simulator and see it didn't pick up yet that we're now in the Pro version. It should generally do that after oh. So now it knows that we're using the Pro version, and I have enabled the forced registration. So it asks me to activate the terminal now. So I can actually use this activation key. Just make sure that I have a fresh key. I can use this 9A2HAF. And this is all that's needed to unlock a terminal and make it fetch all the data from Magento and start using the Pro features. You can now see that I have multi-user access, so I can see on the staff, manage staff, there's multiple users here. And those can have different roles, which are entirely granular. There's like, I don't know, 50 different permissions that you can set. So a cashier is not not allowed to open and close a register, but a manager is. Refunds can only be done by a manager, and the configuration of the POS can only be done by an admin. So that's all configurable. You can set all of those different permissions per role. Then you just go back, like when you first install it, you have your API keys in there. You probably first want to start with the getting started screen. You can see where you are in your setup progress, how many locations and terminals and staff you have configured already. You can see the status of your devices. So there's a bit of help here to get you started, what you need to do. We have Hyvä Commerce dashboard widgets for the POS as well. So you can see here who your best sellers are, breakdown per payment method, revenue per location. So it hooks into Hyvä Commerce in that sense. Let me go back. There's a help section that fully explains all the features. So you can set up locations, and on the location you can set the address of the store, which inventory should be used for that location. So if you have MSI, you can create stock for every store location that you have. The receipt configuration, you can add a logo and everything that's then printed on the receipts. So this takes the default settings that you set up in a global configuration, and then you can change it here per location, which categories you want to show, the low stock threshold, so to what quantity can you sell until it stops, so you're not accidentally selling something that's just sold online. While best practice, of course, is that you have separated stock between your warehouse and the in-store. And then you can have API keys for your money terminals per store. So you can share a payment terminal between two registers. Text configuration for the store, and then which printers you want to support. So you could say as a branch manager, or you could say we're only allowing people to buy 2 types of printers that we've tested, and we're going to service an order for everyone. You're not allowed to use any of the other printers. We have very wide support for a lot of broader models. So we have a couple of these mobile ones. One that also prints labels, as you can see. The other one that prints receipts. So if you're working on the marketplace, on a market, it's ideal to have like a small printer like this on hand. But then we also have the full setup with a receipt printer from Epson, which powers the iPad and manages the registers. So when I sell something here, in front to show, I can print from different receipt printers. If I do a new sale here for the exact amount, it opens the register. When I print a receipt, it comes out from here, and the barcode scanner. Is it on? Yeah. So if I go to the register, it's probably hard to see from the webcam, but just to give you an idea, when I scan with the barcode scanner, it adds it to the cart directly, and it also works with the QR barcode, adds another product to the cart. So all the hardware, including like the more traditional barcode scanners that you just put on your counter and it's always on, so you just put products with the barcode in front of it. That all works. So yeah, that's kind of the whole setup working, ready to be used in store. In the Pro version, we're able to send the receipts from the POS to Magento as well, because we have custom endpoints. So if I buy something here now quickly. It shows that I'm using a developer license, so it's only for testing. But then now, if I go to the receipts, it just created this new order, and it's already synced to Magento, so you can also see it from here. And you see now that we have process return as well, which is a full RMA process, where if you do a return in Magento, you need to go through different steps, because you create a return, then the customer sends the product to you, and then you need to approve the product, and then you decide whether you give a refund, or store credit, or exchange. Because they are in the store and they have the product at hand, you can skip all of those steps. So that's what our API bridge does. If I create a return here and I say I want a refund or exchange, after that, you can apply the cash refund to the checkout. So you're going to give back 10 euros for this return, and you can either decide to just give them the full amount back, which then creates it registers that in your register report. So also credits are included if you've given cash back. If people want to use this credit to buy a new product, so if I'm going to buy something for 55, it's reduced from the current cart, so they can immediately use that credit to take out of the new sale. So let me clear this card quickly. It should also now show, so this is the gift card that comes from Adobe Commerce. That wasn't there before. That's only a Pro version when you have a gift card module installed. If I select myself as customer, it also shows the store balance that I have, the credit that I have in my account, and reward points that I have. And if you set it up in Magento, every sell that you do in the POS also adds reward points, and it also shows up on the receipt. People can actually gain reward points through sales in store, and then use those online to buy something new again. So again, this is fully unified commerce experience, which doesn't exclusively work for Adobe Commerce. Again, it hooks into the other modules as well if you have a third-party extension for that installed. So that's pretty cool. Then what's also good to show, let me take this away again. Let me pull up a second screen. So this would be the customer-facing display. And since we're now on Pro, I can enable broadcast card to display. And then on a secondary screen, I can connect to the POS, and then it starts to show you. So the left screen would be facing the customer. Immediately shows what you're putting into the cards, and then when I go and pay, it allows me to send a QR code to the secondary screen. So the customer, if they don't want to have a printed receipt, they can scan this barcode. And then that takes them to a secure page on Magento where they can send the receipt themselves by email, or download it as a PDF, or send it by email, share it on their iPhone or other device. I can also prompt them to enter their email address on the secondary screen and just hit send. So then they get an email with the receipt, or I can do it here from the counter. So instead of asking, is it John Doe with 1 or 2 O's or whatever, they can type it themselves on the secondary screen. And then of course you have the print option. If you don't have a printer configured, it uses AirPrint. So if you're on a Mac, you can also use a regular printer, which is smaller paper or actual normal leather paper. You can see I earned points on this sale, so that also worked. My new point balance is showing. That also shows on the receipt, so it's pretty cool. And then the receipt that we just created should also be visible in Magento. Yeah, so you can see the orders that I just placed they are immutable in Magento. You're not allowed to change the receipt. That's final, because that's what a customer walked out of the store with on paper. What we're gonna add to this is that, as you saw in the POS, you can do a compare. So it shows whether there's inconsistencies between the receipt and the Magento order, which is super important. Because Magento could be applying a different tax rule, or there could be a 1 cent rounding error or whatever. You still want to have your invoices in Magento kind of leading for your administration, for your accounting, so that if you have an integration with your accounting software already, or with your ERP or whatever, that depends on your invoices, you can just continue to use those without bothering using the receipts that we create. But then it's really important that they are both in sync. So the one thing that we want to do is add a check here that runs on a cron job every day that checks whether there are receipts that do not exactly match Magento orders or Magento invoices, and then highlight those so you can look into the issue there and resolve it. Which should be an edge case, but a very important one to catch. So the secondary screen is a pro version, a pro feature. Offline mode is only available when you have the pro version. So if your store's Wi-Fi goes dead, or the internet connection goes down, you can proceed to process payments, because we store the receipts locally, and then receipts are synced to Magento as soon as you come back online. Now imagine that Magento is in maintenance mode and you have 100 terminals running through the whole country, and they're all taking sales, and you have 100 sales that need to be synced to Magento. It would be pretty dramatic if all of those registers at the same time come back online and push them all to Magento. So we have two mechanisms there in place. There's a back-off mechanism that looks at how big the queue is and then sends them in batches, and how bigger the queue is, the slower that it takes. But it also uses a random delay between every terminal before they start sending the order. So one terminal might wait 5 seconds, the other might wait 11 seconds. So that makes it random enough for them not all to at once at the same moment that the internet comes back online or when Magento comes back online, that they all start to DDoS your Magento server. And when it detects that it cannot reach the store, it will wait a minute to retry. If that fails, it will wait 5 minutes, and then so that's the backing off mechanism. It won't continue to hammer your server when it's already having a tough time. And your store completely continues to work because it has offline mode. All the products are you can enable under data and sync. The offline catalog cache, you can set how often it should look for updates in products in stock. And if you have your payment terminal running on a SIM card as a backup method, so normally these terminals work on Wi-Fi or the network, but they have a backup mechanism for a network card, so you can put a SIM card in there. If you have that in place as well, you can fully continue to sell through your POS because the products are cached offline, and you store the receipts locally on the device, and payments go straight to Molly or another payment provider instead of routing through Magento. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, and then there's the full orchestration through your own Magento site, where you can change the passcode of a user to either lock them out, or if they've forgotten the password, that will work within 5 minutes. If you disable terminal, it will also stop working depending on how you set up your heartbeats. So this is a check that happens by default every 15 minutes. It checks with Magento whether there's any configuration changes, and only when it sees there's a different hash for the configuration, it updates and syncs the configuration from Magento to your terminal. Multiple user and everything. It's pretty extensive. Anything that prompts you to ask more about Vinay? Sorry, I've had such a long.
No, that's fine. I didn't want to interrupt you because it's you were in the flow, and I didn't want to derail your train of thought. One question I had almost till now to the end was that I wanted to ask because like you always were mentioning Molly. How about if a merchant already has a payment provider and they want to continue working with them? Obviously, that works.
So we worked with Molly on our first demo that we did a couple of weeks ago at the expo where we were, and it helped us a lot. They're our premium partner. They're also going to be our premium partner for this POS system. But we'll open up to other payment providers to partner with us and also offer their terminals. But that requires them to contact us and to discuss how we can work together. It's an iOS app, so it's not like extendable. Means that we can create API endpoints like we did with the credits and the RMA and everything. But if we're integrating another payment provider, we need to build that into the app, and we need to have some kind of partnership in place with those payment providers. But it's not going to be an exclusive partnership with Molly. Same as we have with Magento in general. We work together with Molly very closely, and we're already discussing a couple of use cases with merchants, with Molly, where they're talking about the amount of terminals that they need and Like if there's high volume, they can discuss rates and everything. So they're definitely interested in entering the install market. They've been pushing that very hard in the past years, so that's a really big opportunity for the both of us. But you also don't want to force all merchants to buy whole new equipment. And in any case, you would always be able, you still see it often in stores that you place an order and then they type in the amount on the terminal and then they hand it over to you. That will always work. But to have it fully integrated into the POS, we need to build it in.
So how's it going to work with updates? Let's say a new version of the POS is released that requires a new version of the Magento extension, for example. Will it be like, I don't know, sometimes I start a game on my phone and it says, oh, you have to update to continue. That wouldn't be fun if that happens during the day, maybe in a store. So any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so there's a migration schema mechanism in place where if configuration formats or things to the configuration change on the Magento side, that is a migration schema in the app that will allow you to adapt those changes in the iOS app. When we update the iOS app, it would look at the version of the POS that's currently installed, and they might have to be in sync. But when we push an update for the POS module for Magento, the iOS app wouldn't break, but it would prompt you to update to make use of the latest changes. But as with all the products that we build, backwards compatibility is really important. Having your POS work in store is crucial for your business. So we'll be very careful to make sure that you're not suddenly locked out of your device because your development partner for your store hasn't installed the module yet. Also, when it fails to reach Magento for whatever reason, the POS continues to work. Your license is always so a license is renewed as kind of a lease for 30 days, and within those 30 days, when your subscription is renewed, it pulls in a new license for 30 days, and as long as your device is online and connected to your Magento instance one time in a month, it will continue to work just to validate the license is still active. Otherwise, if your store is in maintenance mode or something breaks, the POS will continue to work.
Great. So you said we're basically towards the end of testing. I mean, still tweaking happening. Pretty early going into pilots soon. Famously or infamously, we don't give any ETAs on product development or features. But do you have a rough feeling for maybe when this should go out? And of course, we can cut this out if you don't want to talk about this.
No.
But everybody will be some people will be thinking about it, right? So.
Yeah. So the pilot starts the end of this month. When we're gonna start with 3 or 4 merchants in store where they're just gonna use it all day, and we're gonna test with them and see what they run into and see whether there's crucial things that we need to fix or address. Everything will depend on that feedback, how fast things will go from there. If there are no big issues, we'll push the free version to the App Store. Then it will depend on the review time that Apple puts into allowing us to publish it. But we'll have to see how we roll it out per country, because there is the restriction on Germany and France, Austria and Italy. For that, we need to work on the tax compliancy and work with this provider. Fiscally, we're currently looking into working with, and at least for France, we'll need to get certified, so they're gonna run through our infrastructure and code and check whether everything is compliant with tax rules in France. So that's going to be interesting, but for most countries, that's not a blocker. And pretty much everything is in place right now to do the end-to-end like provisioning of licenses and everything. As you saw, I have it running locally. It's in a pretty good shape to be pushed to our live website. And the POS app also feels pretty stable now, having tested it for 4 weeks, day in, day out. Especially the 2 days at the expo where we were just using it with customers and just seeing how they used it, and that was really learnful. Yeah, so I think we're in a good shape to roll it out in the third quarter of the year. So hopefully by the end of the second quarter,
fingers crossed,
start rolling it out further. Yeah.
Very good. Okay.
The interest is pretty big, and I think, we haven't even discussed what the reason is why we started to build this, but I'll keep it short. But it's other platforms have good POSs in place. There are POSs for Magento that work well. None of them are as native and feature complete to compete with other POSs. Of course, Shopify has their own POS. There are proper third-party POSs for other platforms. Lightspeed does really well, especially in the Netherlands as a POS system, but they're not really strong in e-commerce. So what we see a lot under our customer base is that they are kind of forced to use Lightspeed, but they also want a proper e-commerce store. So they start using Magento, or they are considering Magento, but those two systems don't work well together. And most of the merchants I spoke to at the Ecom Expo, they were frustrated or like unhappy about the fact that their stock data is never up to date. They have multiple systems that don't communicate together, so it's just a hassle. And for our partners, the integrators that are offering Magento sites to merchants, they always have this discussion with merchants. So we advise Magento to use online. That's a good fit for you. What's the POS that you're currently using? And then they already have Lightspeed or another system that they're paying for. So they feel like they don't want to invest. And then they often also come with an e-commerce platform that's not as good as Magento, but they already pay for it, or it works well together with the POS. So the proposition is not as strong when it's selling Magento separately, and then it needs to be integrated, and those integrations never really work smoothly. So having a real directly connected POS to Magento just makes the whole offering of unified commerce so much stronger, and gives way more arguments to an agency. Like, it gives them the munition to go to a merchant and tell them, here's the whole solution. And it works together seamlessly, and it makes, like, the combination is stronger than the two things apart. Like, the unified commerce, having all the reward points and people buy things online, pick it up in store. They can get credit or refunds in the store for something that they bought online. It all works really seamlessly. So that's just makes the proposition of Magento so much stronger. And then commercially, we're going to charge just 50 euros per terminal. Many other POS systems, they charge for the amount of locations or the users or the SKUs that you have. That's all yours because it's your Magento instance. So the infrastructure is yours and the store is yours. We don't limit on anything, not on revenue, not on users, not on anything, just the amount of registers that you use. So it's very predictable what your cost will be. It will always be constant. And I lost my train of thought, but I think this is a good place to... that was the last thing I wanted to add. We're adding 2 terminals to Hyvä Commerce. So if you're already using Hyvä Commerce, you can try it out for free. We have the free version anyway. You can install the app from the App Store for free. Just try it out, connect it to your store, and just see how it works. And then if you decide to upgrade to Pro, you just get a license from a website and it all goes seamlessly. So the barrier to entry is really low. We allow merchants to test everything and really get convinced that this is something they want before they buy it. And then if they use Hyvä Commerce, it's even more of a no-brainer. Just to use it to manage your stock or to look up order information and all of that is already convenient, whether you use your phone or your Mac or an iPad for that. And then sales reps can use it on the road, put it in a SIM card and they can go and visit customers, just put in orders. Yeah, it's really, really powerful. Okay.
Shows experience in retail. So, okay, let's wrap it up, I guess.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for the tour.
Yeah.
Thanks everybody for watching.
Definitely have a shorter, more polished marketing video coming out soon to show the POS in action. But this was an in-depth technical walkthrough and functional walkthrough, which I think was good to walk through the whole thing. So thanks for watching. Thanks Vinay for being my partner in the presentation. Okay. Bye bye.